Good, good. Pete, I just wanted to first of all just say I was just listening to Bernadine, and I've had a number of conversations with her. I actually went out and met with her and her group quite some time ago, and very disappointed to hear that she still hasn't gotten a meeting with the minister. I know she was trying for quite some time with former Minister Cornick and got nowhere with that. And she indicated now Minister Collins, and I actually spoke to Minister Collins. I know we're coming in the House or out of the House when he first took on that portfolio, and he was aware of it, and he said he was going to meet with him. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. 3 weeks seems like a long time not to get back, but hopefully he will, and he told me he was going to meet with him, and I certainly hope that he will. But Pete,
suffice it to say, if and when the Liberals form the government, they're going to step forward and have a meeting with this group pronto, are they?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm writing it down.
You can go ahead and write it. Like I said, I've already met with her, and these people deserve to be listened to. There's a lot of serious issues here. A lot of people over the years who have come down with various types of cancers, and there's a lot of questions that needs to be answered, and so they definitely deserve to have a meeting and a fair hearing on it, and I certainly encourage the minister to do as he said he would and meet with them. Pete, one of the other things that Bernadine mentioned was the fact that perhaps part of the problem is the fact that there's been so many ministers, such a turnover in ministers. So I just want to share with you, there for a moment, just some statistics, I'll call it. I had some research done prior to this last sitting of the House of Assembly, because I had that same concern, quite frankly, about the fact that, it seems like we're changing ministers more than we change our socks. And then, what kind of impact could that have when you look at some of the issues that have gone on, our ministers even in departments long enough to, it seems to me in a lot of cases, by the time they get into a portfolio, there's obviously a steep learning curve, and by the time you sort of get your feet under you and understand what's going on, you're yanked out again, and we start from scratch. And I think that's one of the big issues that we have with government in general. So, just looking at Service NL, which we just spoke about, of course, in terms of Service NL, since this administration came in 2003, we've had 9 ministers. 6 of them have been since 2011. So just think about that for a second. So that's basically 2 a year for the last 3 years that we've had in Service NL.
I think we've actually come around. We've had the same one twice.
Well, yes, I think we actually had that as well.
Yeah.
Department of Advanced Education and Skills, which was formerly Human Resources, Labour and Employment. We've had 4 ministers since 2011. CYFS, Child, Youth, Family Services, which is, obviously that's a very important department, and we know the issues we've had with the child deaths and so on that have occurred and those tragedies. We've had 5 changeovers since 2009. Education, we've had 3 ministers since 2011. Environment and Conservation, 6 ministers since 2011. Finance, we've had 4 ministers of finance since 2013.
Yeah.
Fisheries, 4 since 2011. Get this one, IBRD, 6 since 2011, and 3 different ministers in 2014 alone. So
of course,
year we've had 3 ministers.
Yeah, well, largely, though, what's behind this, of course, is the fact that we've had so many leaders or premiers, and they all seem to need to take at least one, if not many, stabs at putting their stamp on it and change it to suit them or to achieve some sort of, goal. So,
yep. I understand that, but you have to ask, and I agree that in a lot of cases perhaps that's what happened, and there's other reasons, but, at the end of the day, when you think about it, you have these departments, like, let's look at Department of Health, for example. Since this administration came in 2003, 14 ministers of health, 5 since 2011, and 4 in 2014 alone. So just think about it. The Department of Health, when you think about how large that department is, all of the issues that we have, the serious issues affecting us all in terms of health care and so on, I can't even imagine the amount of reading and briefings and everything else that a minister must have to receive coming into that department to get any idea, really, what's going on, and like you said, get your feet under you. 4 ministers since 2014. Department of Justice, Pete. Department of Justice, we've had 5 ministers since 2011. 4, of course, which were elected and 1 which was unelected, but 5 since 2011. We talk about our justice system. So these are, this is very concerning.
Well, Mr. Lane, would you
in 2014?
Would you be suggesting that there's actually some method in this, that there's actually perhaps some benefit into switching ministers, or that's why it's happening, and therefore giving ministers, I guess, reasons to say I'm not up on this, or I'm going to put this meeting at this particular date because they know that, given the history of the department, they're not going to be around anymore?
Well, Pete, I can't comment on the motivation as to why this is done or how it happens. I mean, to my way of thinking, if you're going to have a cabinet and you're going to put people in cabinet, they have to be there long enough. I would suggest that you need at least a year, really. I suppose that can vary on the individual and the department and what's involved. But you take something like the Department of Health, I'd say you'd need a year there, really, to totally understand everything that's going on, and
that may well be, but you have
issues, right?
You have departmental expertise and whatnot, and that shouldn't prevent you from carrying on as though you've been there forever and meeting with the people that need to be met with, and making decisions and with help, on issues that are critical.
Well, that could be one point of view. You could look at it that way, but I would look at it from the perspective that a minister is in a department to lead that department. The minister is in that. The buck is supposed to stop with the minister, so therefore the minister needs to understand what's going on. Yes, you can take advice, but at the end of the day, the minister is the person who is supposed to be running the department. The staff are not supposed to be. They're supposed to assist the minister. They're supposed to give advice, but the minister is the person in charge. The minister is the person who is supposed to be making the critical decisions and understand what's going on in the department, not just simply taking the word for, of everyone who's there on everything, questioning nothing and not understanding the issues, him or herself. But
clearly, as you've outlined, the ministers know at any given time, at least in recent years, a fraction of what the people who've been there and will be there for much longer than the minister know and have to offer.
Absolutely, and it's important. The advice of staff people who have been there is absolutely important. I don't question that for a second, but at the end of the day, the minister has to understand what's going on, understand the department, and I find it very difficult to get my head around when you look at a department again, like I said, Department of Health, just as an example, 4 ministers of health since 2014. So this is only, we're not even halfway through 2015. We've had 4 ministers of health, and that's nothing against the individuals who have been those ministers, but my point is that how can you have continuity? How can you have somebody to go in there, really understand the issues, and make meaningful change when they're changing out left, right, and center? And like you said, even if it's a minister makes a commitment to meeting with a group or dealing with an issue, by the time they ever get around to having that meeting or dealing with that issue, they're gone again, and now that group is left to start from scratch with a brand new person. So I really think that it's an issue, and I think it's part of the overall problem, and I think that there has to be more continuity, and if ministers are going to be there, they need to be put there long enough to understand what's going on and be able to do their job effectively.
Well, they're valid stats and point well taken. I do have to say, though, and I apologize for this in advance, that a few eyebrows no doubt went up when people heard you talking about or complaining about change, because as we all know, you've seen a little bit yourself. Absolutely,
and that's fine. The change that happened there, I stand by that, and we'll leave it at that. But what I'm talking about here is I'm talking about our critical public services, such as health, such as justice, such as the education of our children. And if we're going to have people in charge of those departments with the task of ensuring that all these things run properly, run effectively, and so on, then I think that you need to have people in those positions long enough that they're able to actually understand all the issues, be able to make some meaningful, positive change. And you can't do that when you're changing them out every other every 6 months or what have you. So that's the point, and I think there's a lot of validity to it, and I guess it'll be up to people who are listening to determine whether they agree or not.
Well, Bernadine certainly would agree with you, that's for sure. All right, thanks, sir. I appreciate this.
Not a problem, Pete. You have a great afternoon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay.